When I started bartending in the 90s, the recipe for anything was just make it red. Like if somebody was like, hey, what's in a Mai Tai? I was like, I don't know, put rum in it, make it red. And that was the recipe for...
Was it really?
Yeah, any drink you asked a bartender for in the 90s was just put some rum in it, pineapple, and make it red. That was a recipe for everything.
Welcome to Soon to Be Legends. I am MC Clark. Zach Wilks, our guest. Host Byron Stankus. This is Soon to Be Legends, right?
Yeah. So we got Soon to Be Legends twice on that. So Clark, what does MC mean anyway?
Master of Ceremony, I believe,
that
or
part I knew. Master Control.
Master Control as well. So,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of those two.
Master of Cocktails.
Master Clown. That is you, sir. Master of Clown. So like, look at you with your own, segue. I love this. So Zach Wilks.
I'm a natural. Zach Wilks.
Zach Wilks, Master of Cocktails. So should we put that under there, or do you want like mixologist?
No mixologist.
No?
You know what the difference between a mixologist and a bartender is?
I do not.
Mixologists are assholes.
Oh. They're pretentious.
That's kind of the joke. You know, back when that term was originated, I think it had all of the best intentions. And then when
I think you wanted to make it like a domestic engineer, right?
Well,
you wanted to make it sound like
this was in the 1860s. When they
was
were
it really?
using, yeah, mixologist.
Oh, okay, that's
mixologist was a term for a studied bartender back then. But then when the cocktail explosion came back in 2010 with all the New York cocktail bars and that kind of stuff, mixologist kind of turned into a term for anybody that had watched a few YouTube videos and read a couple of books.
Yeah. Back in the 1800s, they were watching YouTube videos?
Well, in the 2010s.
Okay, I got you. I'm just kidding.
Everybody that put on a vest and waxed their mustache, all of a sudden they started calling themselves bartenders. And they got really pretentious for a few years.
Sure.
Bartending has kind of swung back around to great cocktails, fresh ingredients, and being a lot of fun again.
Nice.
So it's kind of a good world to be in these days.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So just a reminder.
Sure.
Sign up. Subscribe to YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's how we eventually will get 4 or 5 pennies for each episode.
Yeah, I think
I really
had, but as long as we get all those people.
Yeah, all those people. All your fans.
What do they say on YouTube? Like click the bell?
Yeah, ring the bell for the notifications.
Yeah,
ring the ding, ding, that whole thing.
I've officially gotten to say that term in my life.
Have you really?
Well, just now.
Oh, good for you.
First time.
Yeah, look at that. The Soon to Be Legends channel is just taking off now.
First time's for everything.
And all your fans will be tuning in, right?
Sure.
So we'll name both of them, or
well, yeah, all 7. My mom.
Hey, we'll take it.
But if you want to see what I'm up to, can I plug myself?
This is what you're here for.
Yeah, so
because we can plug ourselves all the time.
All of my stuff, all of my professional stuff is on Instagram at Zachtails, ZACHTAILS.
Zachtails, as in cocktails with the Zach name.
Exactly.
Man, you're so
smart. You are so smart. I can't believe you figured that out.
Zach makes the best cocktails in the city, by the way.
Best cocktails in the city?
I make really good cocktails.
I grew up in New York. We refer to the city as New York City, but I'm assuming you mean Indianapolis, since that's where we live.
I'm assuming wherever he's serving cocktails.
Wherever
you're serving cocktails would be the best.
I don't know. If you drop me in New York, I might be like top 100.
Top 100. Okay. let's do that. Might be a thing to do to drop you into New York.
Easy. It's not as hard to be recognized in Indianapolis, but if I went to New York City or one of the big cocktails,
well, you don't have the mustache that you wax.
I can't grow a mustache.
You can't?
No. This is 7 days of facial hair right now.
7 days of facial hair?
Yeah, it's bad.
Boy, this is really just self-effacing humor here, isn't it?
I'm going to hit puberty one of these days.
Let's just knock ourselves down a notch.
My voice finally dropped. Now, if I can just
put Rogaine on your face,
I'm starting to need it on top of my head. My hair's getting thin. So
yeah, well, hey, whatever promotes the brand.
Exactly right.
So that's good. So you're a bartender, right? And you've been bartending for quite a while.
Yes.
Right. And you prefer bartender other than mixologist.
I like bartender.
You like bartender?
Mixologist has like a.
Yeah, we went through that.
I think we're back. I think we're back to the part where it's like the pretension is wearing off. But
okay,
I'm a 4th generation bartender.
4th generation bartender. So 4th generation. So like grandpa, or grandma, or whatever.
Yeah, mom, grandpa, grandma, great grandparents have all been barkeeps.
Barkeeps. Like for where? Like how far back? I mean, I know you just generationally.
As far as I can tell, generationally for 4. I don't know much about my family before that. There was not a whole lot of documented
Yeah, but I mean, like,
history.
is that like 1820s or something?
I would say you could probably trace it back at least to 1880, 1860.
1880, 1860? Yeah, I can't do generational math that fast, so that's why I had to ask.
I can't do any math that fast. I might have just made up some numbers. So.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. Those were real dates.
Hey, it sounded
Those
right.
were really
They were real dates, and it sounded good.
And so, do you know anything about having speakeasy in the Prohibition or anything? And they do that? Are they from here as well?
Yes. So my grandparents, my grandfather was born in 1890, and my grandmother was born right after the turn of the century.
Okay.
And they ran a grocery store in downtown Indianapolis called Riggs Grocery.
Riggs.
And it was in New York and Davidson, which currently there's a highway overpass there. There's nothing left of it. You would never know that there was a grocery store there. But during that time, when Prohibition came around, things got a little tight all over the country, and they started a bar in the back room.
So they had like a legit speakeasy.
Yeah, most definitely.
So you are like a legit underground renegade.
I am. I come from that lineage. And
nice.
One of the cool parts about it, and I wish I would have had the forethought more when I was younger to better document these stories, because you'd sit around any Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, and you'd hear all the stories about my uncles and great uncles like loading up cars and driving through the hills of Kentucky, picking up barrels to bring them back to supply alcohol for.
That's cool.
It was called Riggs Tavern is basically what they called it, but it was basically just the back room of this grocery store. So.
Back room of a grocery store.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So that's like real heritage.
It's about as real as it gets.
So when Clark says, "Oh, I'm gonna bring in this guy," and he's a bartender, I'm like, "This is gonna suck." He's like, "No, he has good stories." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure he does." But like legit speakeasy.
I might do some flair. Do you want me to do some flair?
What was the secret knock?
I don't know any flair.
The secret knock. You don't know any flair?
I don't know the secret knock, Clark.
Oh, so was Tom Cruise's character in Cocktail named after you, or
he actually worked at my grandparents' speakeasy?
Tom Cruise is that old.
Little known fact.
Little known fact.
Like they came up in
Tom Cruise
in the 1920s. My grandparents created the Cocktails and Dreams neon sign. That was part of the speakeasy.
There's going to be people that are actually going to look.
There's going to be fact checkers, and I'm going to get roasted online. But
that's great.
That's great.
I love it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you went to school. You said you went to IU.
I went to IU for sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing, which is one of those degrees for I don't know what I want.
Exactly.
Right.
And I still don't know what I want.
But please pay me.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
And it works.
Gotcha.
But much to my mother's dismay, I caught the bartending bug while I was down there, and that's the last thing she wanted from me.
Right. Because she was a bartender and was like, "This ain't no good."
She was a bartender, and she. My dad wasn't around. I don't want to get a sob story. Dad wasn't around. Mom raised my sister and I as a bartender. She made great money, but all of the money that she had went to my sister and I. She never put anything aside to herself.
Okay.
So when I stared doing it,
she's like, "Oh crap, nobody's going to take care of me now."
Yeah, exactly. Well, we ended up having to, but that's all right.
Okay, good.
But
taking care of mom. Your mom was mad
so
about it.
when I was in IU, I was bartending to get my way through school.
Sure.
I liked it way too much.
I did some of that too, by the way.
IU way too long, and finally she was like, "You're coming home." So
how long were you in college? Because I went for 7 years. I went for 7 years, and I'm not a doctor.
I'm not even a doctor either. Yeah.
No. I did take some time off, and I played.
We took some time off too, and my mom finally pulled the trigger and was like, "Hey, you're coming back. You're finishing IUPUI."
I got married.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, and then the wife was like, "Guess what?
I got my college sweetheart knocked up too, so that's that was part of it."
Is that your wife?
That's my ex-wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
That's
so we have a little different story.
Yeah.
Because I still have my wife, or she still has me, I guess.
I still have my ex-wife as my wife's best friend.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
This is not a Springer episode, so maybe it is. I don't know. This might be really
the best part about the whole thing. I'm still awesome. I was 19. And we're still great friends.
Okay, good for you.
But any family gathering, and my ex-wife comes to all of them with my son, any family gathering, my current wife gets pretty upset because I'm like, "Hey, let's get a picture with my baby's mamas."
Oh, man.
And she hates it. But shouts out to Kaylee and Elizabeth. I'm sorry I keep doing that, but it's hilarious to me.
That's okay. It's I don't know. It's fun for us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You might not be able to go home. I don't know.
I mean, I can still go home. I just get mean mugged a lot of the time.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Good enough. Good enough. So you went to IU. You decided that sales and marketing wasn't your thing, but you are going to sling some liquor, right?
I jumped into sales and marketing jobs for 6 months at a time.
Okay.
And sit in a cubicle, making cold calls, going out, and I hated it.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years, and was like, no, I'm just gonna go bartend somewhere, and I'll figure it out eventually. Right. So I started bartending on the north side of Indianapolis at Champs Americana, which is no longer there, and kind of went from there. And in my 30s, my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, I decided that this is just what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like that this is what I want to do, and that's when I went from just regular bartending to really jumping in the history behind cocktails and a spirits production. traveling the world to learn more about different.
So you traveled the world to learn about bartending and mixing drinks?
And I still do. More so, not so much about bartending, but going to different cultures and seeing their distillation methods. So learning about spirits production and how spirits are made. And I guess that ultimately translates into my work as a bartender.
Is there really like a vast difference in how distills?
Unbelievably.
Really?
And it's got to be super fun now that there's all the small batch stuff going on.
It is, and especially when you get down to places like.
But what could be different? I mean, you end up fermenting whatever it is,
Sure.
right? And then you have to distill that out, which means you have to have the temperature of whatever it's boiling.
All that is
evaporated out. But
basically exactly the same.
Okay.
But
what they throw in and how long they do it, and
completely
they mix it,
different.
and the
And
barrels,
culturally,
and
like
whatever.
even if you're in Scotland, when we toured Scotland and spent time touring distilleries, there's one part. Well, there's scotches separated into 5 or 6 different scotches stylistically.
Right.
So you've got
Which weirdly enough, it took me till just recently to realize that Scotch was from Scotland.
that's
I know.
So
Wow.
I have a question about bourbon because bourbon is whiskey that's made in an oak barrel, right? It doesn't have to be made within the counties of.
I think there's only 11
there
distilleries
is
that count.
a lot. No, you can.
Oh, you can do as long as you follow the recipe.
There's a lot of misconceptions for
Is
the
that like
longest.
German beer? Like as long as you follow the 4 rules of German beer making, it's technically there.
I mean, you can still call German beer, but bourbon has to be in a pretty set group of rules to be called bourbon.
Okay.
And the main rules are it can be made anywhere in the United States, at any distillery.
It has to be U.S. though.
It does.
Okay.
And it has to be made of 51% corn.
Okay.
So as long as you're using 51% corn, you've got that. It's got to be aged in brand new charred American oak barrels.
Okay.
So you can't, like in Scotland buys a lot of used American bourbon barrels to age their scotches in.
Okay.
But you've got to have a brand new barrel every single time.
Is that like sloppy seconds? Scotland gets our sloppy
Yeah,
seconds.
you
That
could
kind of
call
thing?
it
pull
that.
us
I
out
never
of
thought of it like that, but I like it. Next time I talk to some of my buddies in Scotland, I'm going to have to bring that up.
There you go. What's up, Clark?
I find that very funny. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I threw you off. I think Clark had a thought. We knocked it right out of his
that's
head.
all right.
No, I mean I was debating if that was a good joke or not, and I was going to tally it. up.
He was going to start. See, Clark has every now and then it's this running tally whether my jokes are good or not.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is he usually counts 1 or 2 jokes and there's 15.
We
in
should
there.
get a little graphic that pops up on the
There-
screen
we
that
do
gives
that.
you
It's-
a +1 or a -1.
We do. It's not fun for anybody else.
It's really fun for Clark and I. Like, I think that's awesome.
So it might be fun. I don't know. The problem is I'm joking so often.
Sure.
Most people don't even notice. They're
Yeah.
just like, I just heard him talking, and then
I do the same
afterwards,
thing when I'm
I
at
throw
work.
it. Yeah. I don't know why we're talking about my poor sense of humor.
Back to the bourbon.
Oh my god.
So yeah, so those are for the longest time, Kentucky wanted bourbon to be their own thing.
Right, in just
So
Kentucky. Okay.
the myth that was out there was that the only thing that was bourbon was 51% corn and brand new oak barrels, and only from Bourbon County, Kentucky. And Kentucky tried their best to hold on to that.
Right.
And that's,
because I think because I've been to some of those distilleries down there in Kentucky, and,
Sure.
and their claim, apart from just the Kentuckiness of it, was also that the lime and the water that their water is filtered through limestone, that it's going to give it a different, more distinctive flavor, and that's
100% true.
okay.
So
That's why they were like, that's why nobody else is real bourbon.
it's 100% true, but
Okay.
these days with scientific advances,
Right.
you can literally be in upstate New York,
Yep.
and you can use what do they call it? A 0 filter or something
Right.
like, where you can basically suck every
Thing out of it,
every mineral, everything, and then you
add
can
a little,
add it back
yeah.
in.
See, they do the same thing with pizza. I
Sure.
hear in New York.
They do.
Where New York pizza tastes specifically different because of the water comes from upstate New
But
York.
now
down
these
there.
days you can engineer it to
Right.
engineer your water to taste however you want to. So it's a
and
lot.
it's weird because we used to think that just water tasted like water, and now it's like, no, all the
It's
water is a little
different
different.
everywhere you're
Reverse
at.
osmosis, is that what you're...
A reverse RO filter.
Yes.
Ah, there.
Yeah.
Reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
Look at that. Clark dropping
Bringing
some
some
knowledge.
wisdom.
He Googled it.
Look at the big brain on
Googled
Clark.
it.
Yeah. I think he's got his phone open.
Yeah.
Yes,
Don't
I'm
let
Googling.
Don't let that thing ring,
Back
Clark.
there, back there on the Google machine.
Look at that. He's coming with the knowledge.
Yeah,
Right
so with
on.
that, like
That's bourbon.
Garrison Brothers down in Texas, they're
Right.
making great bourbon. I wouldn't necessarily call it bourbon. They call it Kansas City whiskey, but one of my favorite distilleries in the country right now is J. Rieger in Kansas City.
Okay.
And they don't call theirs bourbon because it's a blend of bourbon, rye, white corn whiskey, and then they add just a little bit of sherry right at the end. But they do really cool stuff.
Is she okay with that?
Yeah, I think so.
That's not what you mean.
She has enough for everybody.
I could go a bunch of different ways
Yeah,
with that,
I
but
know.
I'm trying to keep it fairly
I know.
PG.
Yeah.
So-
Your daughter is here. So
my
we're
daughter
gonna,
is here.
So we're gonna.
I win.
Yeah. Say hey. Well, she's on the other side of that camera.
She's officially our first
So-
studio audience guest.
Is she?
Is she? Didn't Tay have his girlfriend?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Does she get like a washing machine or anything?
She does.
She does
Yeah.
not.
No.
Well,
this is not Oprah.
I tried.
We're working on getting
I
little
definitely tried.
tumblers. The next time we'll have a tumbler.
Nice.
Clark, don't get that cart too far ahead of the horse. We don't know that yet.
He's still trying
We
to
have
get
a
a paycheck,
plan.
Clark.
We have a plan. We have a plan to do some stuff for our YouTube subscribers and that sort of thing, and for our guests. So we'll
Just
go
plant
from
a
there.
seed here.
So yeah, no, it's good. Yeah. So you started bartending. Clark asked you about bourbon versus whiskey versus
Sure.
scotch. You've been around the world looking at different things. So if you've gone around the world kind of looking at different distilling methods for spirits and
Sure.
those sorts of things, what's sort of the most unique, interesting thing that you've encountered? Because
So-
I know there's like aboriginals that spit in the...
I have not done that.
Yeah, okay. So-
and I'm the kind of guy that would try everything once, and that
Right.
one would still be kind of tough for me. But
Yeah.
I think I could probably try
Yeah,
it
well,
once.
you've probably had a couple of drinks before then.
Yeah.
Before you figure out how they did it.
Yeah,
maybe.
no, they sit there right there and do
No,
it.
okay. So what? So other than that, which I've only seen on TV, because
The most interesting spirits to me right now, well, I really like rums too, but the biggest cultural difference is the difference between tequila and mezcal.
Oh.
And that was probably my favorite difference between distillation methods. So we spent some time in Guadalajara learning all about tequila production. We stayed at the can I say a brand name or no? Yeah.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah,
we'll
name
do
it
it.
Yeah,
up.
we'll hashtag them.
hashtag
Yeah,
them.
that's cool.
Yeah.
We're at the Casanova Distillery for a week and learn all
Casa-
about Casa Noble.
Casa
Noble, but
The Noble
it's
Castle.
Spanish, so
Yeah, the Noble House. Yeah,
Casa
okay.
Noble. But we
Nice.
stayed down there learning about tequila production, and then we went out to Oaxaca after that. And the best way to describe the differences between tequila and mezcal is think about mezcal is tequila's smoky grandparent. Is the
Smoky grandparent.
It's their smoky grandparent. So
yeah. And it's the one that curses in the corner during Christmas.
yeah, I bet there's a lot of that going on. Like
You damn kids.
and Oaxaca is amazing when you get down there. It's one of the most beautiful places
Is
on the
it?
planet.
That's cool.
But so tequila is very focused on the production. So you've got to use 100% blue agave. Their production methods are a little bit more. There's more
Formalized.
Yeah, more formalized is probably the best way to do
Okay.
it. You get down to Oaxaca, you can use any number of wild agave.
Okay.
So instead of big agave fields like you would see, like when you're in Guadalajara, there's farms and just
Right,
agave
right, right.
plants growing as
Sure.
far as you can see. Well, when you're in Oaxaca, these guys are like on carts on a donkey going up into the mountains and picking single agave to make this work, just because the landscape's so different.
Right.
The other big difference is when you're in tequila, they're baking the agave in these giant clay ovens, in ovens that like 10 people could stand in, and they just pack them full, and they bake them, and that caramelizes all the sugars.
Okay.
So when they go to ferment, the yeast can kind of do their thing.
Right.
And all that.
And
Well,
with the mezcal, they just like have a big bonfire.
they dig a hole and they put a bonfire in the
Yeah.
bottom of it, throw all the agave
think
on
I saw
top of
that.
it, throw dirt on top of that. They wait a couple days and they dig it all up.
Yeah,
and
it's like-
that's where you get the smoke from.
That's like it's like one of those emus they use in
Yeah,
Hawaii
exactly.
to do the pig. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just bury the.
Yeah.
That's so cool because because I think I've seen that on one of those.
They dig
shows. They dig a huge
huge-
hole and then they burn it down to ash.
Sure.
And then they just pile that thing on there and they throw sand and dirt.
Exactly
and they
what
walk
they do.
away. Then
Yeah.
they
It's
then
like
they
72 hours later typically.
yeah. Then
and-
they start drinking and eating and then when people start fighting, they know it's ready.
yeah, it's ready to go. 3 days later.
3 days later.
Yep.
Three
We've
days
been on a
later,
bender. Let's go.
Let's go. That sounds cool. So that's really the difference. Is it's a lot less formalized. It's going to have
It's a lot less formalized.
a lot more
and-
rustic flavor then.
Yes.
And then when does the worm go in?
So if you're drinking mezcal with worms, you're probably drinking garbage.
I was just gonna
we need
say,
to have a completely
who
different
here-
conversation.
Who here has ate the worm?
I've eaten the worm,
I've eaten.
Yeah, I have not.
but now that I know, like,
It's
That's
just
what
a worm
It's
yeah,
just
it's just a worm.
with shitty
thing.
It's just
With what?
mezcal.
With crappy mezcal. Well, with crappy mezcal, it's probably a worm that was living in it before it got in there.
You know the coolest mezcal?
Okay.
I love these because the story's so weird. They call them pachugas.
Pachuga.
And they take a chicken and they hang it inside the still. And as that still heats up and it gets bubbling and boily,
right,
the chicken renders its fat, and all that fat drips down over the liquid that's in the still.
This chicken's dead, right?
I hope so.
Okay, good.
I hope there's no people listen to this, but yes.
And they render fat?
They render the fat, and the fat drips down over the liquid that's in the bottom of the still.
Okay.
And that fat pulls all the sediment to the bottom. It pulls all the impurities out. So it's a way to purify it, but it also gives...
That's cool.
It is really cool. It also gives... We should go have a shot of Pachuga somewhere after this.
Oh,
it also gives the...
Day drinking.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know.
It's the best kind of drink. I'm old these days, so it's the best kind of drinking. But
right.
it pulls out a lot of the impurities, and it gives it almost a little bit more of a smoother, more masculine flavor.
I love masculine flavor.
I would say so. Like, you get that
masculine mezcal.
You
Is
get
that
a little
your new
bit
brand?
of, well, it could be
because it's got rendered fat in it.
Yeah.
Like,
If George Clooney's out there, let's talk about launching a mezcal brand.
But no, I love that. That's a cool story because I love like ancient techniques and how they do things. Like that actually just to help it probably imbued some flavor, I'm sure, but ultimately it was to render the fat off of a chicken.
To render the fat, and
then
fat
it got the impurities
drips down and pulls everything
and
down
they
to the
probably
bottom.
didn't really know that. They just knew it was better when we did this, so let's sacrifice a chicken in the process.
No laboratories back then when they
Right.
started doing that stuff.
But it turns out that the voodoo or the black magic or whatever they were doing to try to make better mezcal by sacrificing a chicken
it turned
turned
out
out to be actually better because the gods were happy with it.
And it's wonderful. There's
cool.
Have you heard of Jose Andres, the famous chef in Washington D.C. that does all the world hunger stuff?
I do not.
So he's awesome, but he did a version of Pachuga. He teamed up with one of the mezcal brands and did a version of Pachuga, but he calls it jamon. And instead,
he uses pig, right?
They hang a Iberico ham leg, in the
Right,
still,
okay, yeah.
Instead of, so you get a little bit of the salinity from that,
Okay.
and it even beefs up that masculine flavor a little bit more.
Wow. So there's nothing more masculine than adding meat to your liquor.
We're adding bacon and everything else.
It's
So
like, hey, you want to make that more manly? Put bacon in it when you distill
I think
it.
it's just kind of a way, like we're trying to overcome some shortcomings somewhere. So like bacon,
probably
put bacon
we
on
have,
it.
We have a very soft society, and then we're just trying to try to butch ourselves up a bit.
Let's just put some bacon in it.
Bacon in it. Boy, the vegans love us.
Yes, yes.
So that's like the coolest thing that you've seen, or is that the most distinctively
I think
different
that's
than
the distinct difference. Everywhere you go, you see really cool things culturally, like Scotland, all of their different production methods, and it's kind of the same thing in Scotland. You've got Islay scotches, and then you've got everything else. And Islay scotches, they use burnt peat to dry the malt out before they distill it, and that's why those Islay scotches like Lafroig and Ardbeg and Lagavulin, that's why they get that smoky flavor to them too.
Okay, that's another way to imbue different flavors in it.
It is. It is.
So then Scotch, and then the Irish do something different. Have you been there? And
I have been to Ireland.
Okay.
Ireland makes some of my favorite whiskeys. Redbreast 12 is one of my favorite whiskeys of all time. And they do more of like a pot stilled thing.
Okay.
So when you hear
pot stilled,
you're still looks like the
in
giant,
copper.
Oh, it's
giant copper pot,
Okay.
and then it's got the column on it. It's a little bit more of a traditional way. A lot of people have gone to column stills, and it's just column stills are giant stills that have these different layers, and essentially it's a way of distilling a lot more product quicker.
I got you. So column, right, is what you're saying?
Column, yeah.
As opposed
So
to
that's a
pot.
little bit more of the industrial way to do it.
Gotcha.
You could put pot stills next to column still stuff and taste them side by side, and they're both going to be great.
Right.
I think there's a lot of other methods in it. It's just column stills. You can do a lot more stuff faster. There's hybrid pot still column stills where you've got the pot still on the bottom, and then you put the
as soon as someone comes
column
up
on
with
the top.
something different or tries a new technique and
Sure.
it works, and someone's going to find a way to tweak that and add something else.
On
And
top of all of that,
I love the fact that also the locals are adding whatever their local stuff is. I mean, there's in Scotland they got plenty of peat moss, so they're adding that, and then obviously in Mexico they figured out like, hey, this agave tastes good when you rot it.
Well, then, yeah, exactly. And then another one of my favorite spirit genres are Amaros, and Amaros are meant to drink after
Amaros.
dinner.
Okay, like
they're-
an aperitif.
Digestive. Would
Digestive.
Be that would be, aperitif is before dinner. Digestive is after.
There you go. I
and
don't
they're
know.
very, 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 very herbal. There's a famous one that bartenders drink called Fernet Branca. It's the bartender's handshake. So if
Okay.
you were a bartender and walked into my bar,
Right.
I would probably set a Fernet Branca in front of you before
Okay.
you ordered anything else.
I bartended a little bit in college. Can I get some free drinks?
Did you drink any Fernet Branca?
I have no idea.
you know the
and
secret
also,
handshake?
I will,
Probably not.
I
I
will
do not,
also
Clark.
buy you a drink anytime you want.
Okay,
to drink,
thanks.
So you can get a free drink. But with Amaros, each little village or each little town in Italy has different Amaros, and they're typically made with herbs and spices.
Okay.
And those herbs and spices are typically foraged from around where they're
Or
at.
locally grown, yeah. The
Yes, so, like-
and they're foraged. They're not like gardens, or they're
Not-
really
A lot of them are foraged.
a lot
just-
of wild
Yeah,
stuff.
just
Okay.
like Fernet Branca's got like 162 or something like that. Last I checked, different herbs, spices, tree barks,
162.
all kinds of different stuff that goes into it.
Wow.
So if you look at village to village, depending on where you're at in Italy and depending on what herbs that they have growing around them and spices and things like that, distinctively every place you go in Italy's got their own version of that, and they're all completely
cool.
different, which
I
is really cool because
that
there's
is cool.
hundreds of them out there.
I
so.
was in Pine, Arizona.
Yeah, my wife grew up there.
In Pine or
Yes.
Pine Top?
Pine Top.
Okay, no, Pine, which
Okay.
is just north of Payson, as
Okay.
opposed to Pine Top
Sure.
out by out east a little bit.
So I was in Pine Top, not to cut you off. I was in Pine Top in September. My wife took us out to show us where she grew up.
That's
So
kind of cool. Anyway, so we were out there in this place. There's a little place called Old County Inn.
okay,
And they make handmade pizza and that sort of stuff. But they also have a little bar and they do some of this stuff. And they had a thing last Christmas time. I can't remember what it was, but they made their own simple syrup out of the sap of the tree
Okay.
that was right there. And then he took some bark from the tree as well, and then took some pine needles and created this drink for us. Man,
That's cool.
So I thought that was like kind of crazy and unique, but apparently that's kind of a thing that these Italians have been doing forever with all their local stuff, right?
you know, it just depends on where you're at in the world or where you're at in the country. Like the different places I've been in the world, that's very common.
to use local plants and stuff, just kind of
just the
flavor
stuff
it.
you have around you.
Yeah,
like
that's
you know,
awesome.
you're looking at doing different stuff.
We're so used to the commercialization of all
Sure.
these things, and then Clark talked about a little bit ago about the small batch stuff that kind of is bringing some of that unique diversity
Sure.
back, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is where this comes from, and you've gone around the world and
It's
looked at this.
it's
right?
definitely where that comes from.
That's
And
awesome.
COVID killed a lot of the small batch stuff, and a lot of it's
Okay.
just starting to come back, just because supply chain issues.
Sure.
A lot of the big brands did great because people drank a lot at home during COVID.
Sure, right.
But a lot of the smaller brands struggled a little bit.
Well, they were hard. They had logistical issues of shipping and all that kind of stuff.
And it's
right,
still
right?
going on.
Plus-
Like as somebody that purchases for a large restaurant in Indianapolis right now, I'm having such a hard time getting anything from Europe. So scotches, different whiskeys like Irish whiskeys,
Right.
and even wine. Like we're having a hard time sourcing wines for our menus
Right.
right now.
so now everything's just got the red, white, and blue all over
It's
it.
a good time
Yeah.
to explore your local
Yeah.
distilleries.
It's
too,
always
you
a
know?
good time to explore your local distilleries,
Right.
and we've got some great ones here in Indianapolis.
We're having a guy with a distillery come in here in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
who's that?
Mark Presley,
Mark Presley,
Moondrop
Moondrop
Distillery.
I've not tried any of that.
Yeah.
There's so many
They're-
popping
It's
up right
brand
now.
new, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Brand
like,
new.
originally you had Hotel Tango was the first one.
Okay.
And then you had the guys, I'm having a brain fart. They're going to kill
That's
me for
okay.
not.
That's
West
all
Fork Whiskey. Sorry, guys. I love your whiskey. You're one of my favorite local distilleries. You probably are my favorite local
Nice.
distillery. But the West Fork Whiskey guys, they popped up. But now, like Bear Wallow down in Bloomington, you've got so many popping up all
Right.
over the city. Huber down in Southern Indiana does a really good job on a lot of different stuff.
So you think now we're talking about spirits particularly, right?
Sure.
So do you go into the wines as well, because the vintners and stuff, we have some of those around as well as across the country and that sort of stuff, or are you less of a wine guy really just because
I
you're
used
like,
to be a really big wine guy.
Okay.
So I worked at a fine dining seafood restaurant in the early 2000s called the Ocean Air Seafood Room
Yep.
in downtown Indianapolis. And at that time, arguably, it was the best restaurant in the city. We had great chefs. We had a great
well,
wine
because you were
list.
there.
I was
Right?
there.
I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, most
right?
definitely.
Did I tell you, Zach makes some really wicked cocktails?
Yeah, no. We clearly get that.
I'm an MC.
You're an MC, the master of cocktails. Yeah.
That's right.
At the Ocean Air Seafood Room, we were doing a different menu every single night.
Right.
So the chefs were bringing in fresh ingredients. We had core items that we always had to have.
Right, sure.
But the chef was actually a partner in the restaurant. So even though there were Oceaneers all across the country, the chef was a partner in the restaurant and got to change the menu every single night.
Okay.
So we were doing this really innovative menu. We had this really great wine list, and it was.
And so you had to match that stuff, like you were on your toes.
We had
right?
to match that
with
and,
drinks and
with
wine?
wine, especially. Like
Right.
you're selling a $200 or $300 bottle of wine. It's different than selling a cocktail because
Right.
people like maybe get a little buyer's remorse or something like that.
Right.
So you really have to build trust with your guest, and you really have to build that rapport.
Right.
And if they don't trust you to sell
Right.
them wine, they're not going to buy from you. But what we did, there's a governing wine organization in the United States called the Court of Master Sommeliers, and it was recommended to us to become a sommelier. So while I was at the Oceaneer Seafood Room, I was able to achieve my level 1 and level 2 sommelier. But then after I got out of the Oceaneer Seafood Room,
Did that expire? Is that a thing,
Nope.
or you just
Nope.
you get to?
I still
carry-
got it.
Do you still have a little thing that you have to carry, a little jigger or whatever?
I've got a pen.
You know,
I've got a pen that I can wear on my jacket. Yeah.
I don't know.
But so for me, level 1 and level 2 were fairly easy. Level
Right.
1 was a lot of memorization, so reading a lot of flashcards
Okay.
to get that. Level 2, you started to get into the tasting aspect of everything. Level 3, you have to taste a whole lot of wines, and you have to smell it and say,
Right.
oh, this one's from this region, it's this grape,
Right.
it's this blend, and it's probably this vintage.
I think
And-
I saw Napoleon Dynamite do that with milk.
yeah, yeah.
In that movie, I don't
You
say.
could totally drink whole milk if you wanted to. But with that, at the point I was in my, I was in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s.
Right.
It was part of the nightlife.
Sure.
Just drinking a bottle of whiskey and smoking a pack of cigarettes every night. There was no way. My palate was just not that strong.
Sure.
And then shortly after that, I went the cocktail route.
Right.
And when that's when
But
we
the
got into
cocktail
that.
also, the cocktail route seemed to me like the wine, you don't do much but recommend. But with the cocktails, you actually get to mix things up and actually
you do.
get to know a customer, get to find out what they like, throw something at them. If they like it, great. If they don't, you can tweak it a little bit or throw them something
And
different.
for me,
and
that's one of the
mix
funnest things for me is to
Right.
have a guest sit down and look at the menu and say, what's cool? And I
Right.
can go off menu and I can ask them a few questions.
Right.
I've got a set of questions that I'll ask somebody.
Oh, so
and
go
I'll
ahead.
find out.
Go ahead.
So,
Just
like,
throw them at me.
what's your preferred spirit?
Honestly, probably rum.
So, okay, you like rum? Do you like
I
strong?
like rum and vodka.
Okay, let's go rum because
so
there's more flavor in rum than vodka. Nothing wrong with vodka, but there's more flavor in
But
rum.
I also prefer drinks where you have to drink it with your pinky out.
Okay, so do you like?
Maybe an umbrella or something. Yeah, I'm
hold your
really.
pinky out.
We're gonna make you a handshake pine-apple daiquiri. I've not
There
got
you
it
go.
all done.
But
Boom.
I don't like the frozen. I don't like them
No.
frozen. I want
So a daiquiri was never a frozen cocktail to begin with.
Okay.
And that's one of the things out there that's fun
dropping
for
knowledge.
me.
Look
I
at
know,
you.
right?
Man,
so
we're
the
learning things.
The daiquiri was invented in Cuba by an American engineer that was down there building roads sometime in the late 1800s.
Okay.
And it was born from necessity. So
Okay.
he had rum all around him.
Right.
There's arguably some of the best rums in the world are coming out of Cuba.
Right.
So it was really easy access to rum. Sweetener, sugar cane. It just
Sure.
grows everywhere down there. So you could
awesome.
get sugar cane
Yeah.
and squeeze it, had sugar, and then limes are literally growing all over the islands on trees.
Right.
So he took these 3 simple ingredients and came up with a proportion that worked
Right.
for him.
Right.
And shook them up, poured them up in a. I don't like serving them in a martini glass. I'd rather serve it in a coupe glass just because
Okay.
I think it looks a little cooler. And the daiquiri was born. It wasn't until sometime in the 40s and 50s where everybody came back from one of the world wars that I'm going to go on this whole thing. Are you ready?
This is what you're here for,
all right,
man. I don't
let's
know
go.
this
Going
stuff.
deep.
Let's
I
go.
don't know.
We're going deep.
I don't know. I drink a drink. I'm like, oh, it's good.
America had all.
I feel funny.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I like it too. America had all this amazing not culinary, but bartending knowledge before Prohibition. We had amazing bartenders
Right.
making amazing drinks,
Right.
Probably the best in the world. And then Prohibition happened, and all these great bartenders were like, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Right.
Can I cuss?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sure. Do it
So-
again.
Cussing's encouraged.
Sometimes I drop an F-bomb. But all of the bartenders that had jobs and were doing great things were like, what are we going to do now? So they all went to Europe or they all went to
Right.
South America, and all of that knowledge base that had been passed down from generation to
Right.
generation just completely disappeared. So
Well, it got exported.
it got it got exported,
Right.
but Prohibition ended, and all of these bartenders ended up in these great places and never came back.
Right.
So there was a really dark period of American bartending where we were just winging it. and
Where
didn't-
it was clearly your family filled that hole.
yeah, what we just did. Yeah, exactly. They didn't know what they were doing.
They don't
either.
know what they're doing.
They're just pouring whiskey that they
Nice.
bought from some sketchy guy in a mountain in Kentucky.
That sounds awesome.
But we lost all that knowledge base. So there was a long time in the United States where none of this history existed. There was no trades handed down. There weren't bartenders teaching bartenders how to do stuff. Things got really ugly. Like when I started bartending in the 90s, the recipe for anything was just make it red. Like if somebody was like, hey, what's in a Mai Tai? I was like, I don't know, put rum in it, make it red. And that was the recipe for...
Was it really?
Yeah, any drink you asked a bartender for in the 90s was just put some rum in it, pineapple, and make it red. That was a recipe for everything.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
Grenadine sales, they loved
exactly.
it. Yeah, they're like, awesome.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
looks exotic. It's red.
Roses was off the hook back
Rose,
then.
yeah.
So sometime in, I would say that the ground zero for the cocktail renaissance is in New York City, probably, or the cocktail resurgence, I should say.
Right.
And probably
Same thing, Renaissance for you.
early 2008, 2010, you had bars like Death and Company popping up, Milk and Honey in New York City, Please Don't Tell. Dale DeGroff was at Wonders of the World, which is at the top of the World Trade Center. And
Windows on the World.
Windows on the World, correct. He was one of the first American bartenders that started doing the things chefs were doing as far as bringing fresh cocktails back in. And that's when people started getting more interested in the history of where all these things came from.
Right, and then you clearly took that up as well.
I
right?
did take
Obviously.
it up. And it was one of those things, so I get a lot of credit in Indianapolis, especially for being the first person to bring the cocktail bar to Indianapolis. And we were the very first.
Who's we this time?
The Ball and Biscuit.
Okay, Ball and Biscuit. So
Yeah.
you were an owner of the Ball and Biscuit.
I was.
See?
I was.
Ball and Biscuit. And Ball and Biscuit, just by the way, is a term referring to...
So there was...
a microphone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were you going to get to that?
I was going to go into a
Okay.
much bigger story about it.
Oh, okay.
Because you've got me ranting now. So not only a microphone, but it was a microphone that was produced in Indianapolis at Western Electric. So we liked the connection that it was produced in Indianapolis. And if you see the microphone, it's a sphere.
Yep.
With sorry, that was a bang.
That's fine.
With like the microphone screen that sits on top of it. And it was one of the original microphones that a lot of the American blues and jazz music was recorded on. And when it got over to the UK, the UK's got to name everything. The original name of the microphone was the STC 4021.
Okay.
So that's not any fun to say.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
a
the
great
UK.
name.
They started calling it the Ball and Biscuit, and historically, it's one of the most important microphones of all time.
Right. And the reason that I bring that up and wanted you to go down that thing is because we're on a show where we're talking to microphones.
Is that a microphone?
It is.
Oh,
it is.
that's
It's not a
awesome.
Ball and Biscuit, but
We'll see if we can find you a Ball and Biscuit. They're terribly expensive these days.
that's
It's
all right.
not
Hey,
out there
well,
anymore.
we'll take it. We'll take it.
But
That'd be cool.
my partner at the time and myself, big music nerds, and
Right.
it just fit with what we were doing. It
and
fit
you
with kind of
guys made a real cocktail bar.
made a real cocktail bar.
Right. Which, by the way, I have been there.
It's great. It's
It
still
is.
great. So
I have, yeah.
my shares went
I
to my
was there
sister-in-law when I left, and
years
she's still
ago.
doing an amazing job with it.
Okay.
It was one of those things where, number one, we had way too many partners, and I was working really hard for not a ton of money.
Right.
And
I don't know what that's like,
Yes.
Clark. So go ahead.
Number two, as much as I was working and being face of that place, I was dealing with my stress with drinking and everything else. My daughter was born right about that time, and it was time for me to step away and get myself into more a healthy lifestyle.
That's
so,
good. Yeah.
So
Good for you.
it worked out. I was able to build my dream bar. It just didn't happen exactly like how I wanted it to. So we'll see. There could be another Zach Wilks
iteration
project in the
That's
works
good.
somewhere. So
that's good. But and in part of that, you also founded the United States.
Back in that time, we
Indiana
founded
Bartender
the
Guild?
Indiana chapter of the United States Bartenders Guild.
There you go.
Which is a nationwide fraternity that celebrates the history and the craft of spirits and cocktails and education.
And you were the founder of the Indiana chapter.
Yes.
Good
yes.
for you, man.
It was cool. We
That's
just
cool.
didn't have it wasn't here. And we had enough interested professional bartenders that were career oriented.
Right.
That it made sense to do it.
Yeah, that's
and it's
awesome.
one of those things, like, it opened up so many opportunities for myself and everybody in that guild.
That's how you become a legend. It's soon to be. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm prepping our own show here. I don't know.
That's cool. That's cool. But then that
cool.
opened up so many other things. We opened the Indiana Academy of Spirits and Fine Service, which was a
Set up like a bartending school.
it's a bartending school, but it was more than that.
Okay.
A lot of bartending schools get a bad rap because they're just cash grabs.
Sure.
So we focused more on
The craft.
Yes, we focused more on continued education, for professional bartenders. So people that were already in it that wanted to learn
Right.
more. So what we would do.
So like how to wax your mustache, what size the vest should be,
size your
which
vest
is,
should
by the way,
be.
too small
Exactly,
for sure. I got
exactly.
you.
You've got-
Do you wear
you've
the
got it all
things on
down.
your arm where you kind of just...
I saw a lot of that
get it.
back in the 2010s. I saw
that-
a lot of that.
yeah,
but
back to the
I'm also
pretentious days?
6'10" and
You're 6'10"?
350 pounds.
I
So
wasn't gonna
most of
ask.
that shit wouldn't fit me.
I wasn't... Yeah. I wasn't going to ask,
No.
but okay.
Yeah.
You're full grown.
Yes,
Yeah,
I am
okay.
full. I'm still maybe I'm still
Might be
growing.
still
Yeah,
growing.
I think we're all growing,
I'm-
just a little
I'm growing
wider.
out.
Yeah.
But
Clark will
so
do that.
and that opened up all these other opportunities. So from there, we started the Advanced Academy, and the Advanced
Okay.
Academy were people that went through the academy, and we would get sponsorships from all the brands, and that's how we traveled the world learning about spirits production.
Okay, so the liquor brands actually help sponsor this academy.
Yes.
And then with that, you actually would then travel abroad so that you could increase your knowledge and then pass that knowledge down so that these people could better use the brands that you were sponsored by.
God, you said that so well.
Oh, man, it's
Yeah.
almost like I got a sales and marketing degree.
I know, right? Wait, I've got one of those.
Oh, that was your degree. I'm just using your degree. What
You
do
can,
I know?
you can,
I
you can.
don't know.
I found mine on the sidewalk anyway. So, yeah, and then from there, like a bunch of companies popped up. One of my favorite, if anybody out there wants to hear, there's Lindsay Johnson has a company called Lush Life, and it's a bartender education company, and she does Portland Cocktail Week, which is a week-long education event out in Portland, Oregon. She does Camp Runamuck, which was one of the most fun things I've ever done. It was literally a week-long bourbon education in Bourbon County, where you camp out at the campgrounds with 150 bartenders from all over the world. Every day you go to 3 experiences, whether it's distilleries, whether it was stave companies, learning how barrels was made. And then at night you'd come back, you'd have a big dinner, big pool party, and then you'd sit by the campfire, and everybody would bring bottles from home and pass around their bottles and take swigs and tell war stories. So that was pretty cool.
Right.
But all these resources popped up. So bartenders could open new opportunities and new doors. I've seen bartenders go through some of these education programs that are now brand ambassadors for some of the biggest brands in the world.
Yeah, nice.
Which is a good job. I never went that route. Like, I don't know. I was always like, I'm a bartender. That's where I'm going to stay. So all my friends that have taken the brand jobs, I'm like, whatever, sell out.
But you also have gone into your own products as
well,
well, right?
I've gone into my own products. I've gone into consulting. I've gone into education.
And I'm trying to rep your products here, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have any products right now.
No?
No. So
what was this syrup company?
We did Wilks & Wilson, and Wilks & Wilson was a Bloody Mary and cocktail syrup and bitters company.
Okay.
We had that for a few years. We sold it to Bear Wallow, which is a distillery in southern Indiana.
Okay.
So Wilks & Wilson's still not out there. Wilks or Wilson just don't have anything else to do with it anymore.
I got you.
But they're still doing that thing.
Yeah, it's terrible to have a business that does so well that someone buys it.
It was just time to get out. It was
good.
Yeah, it was one of those
someone-
things.
good for you.
Step away and head on. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I don't know.
But
That's fine. I think that's part of the fun of life, right?
I think that is part of the fun of life.
You never get any younger, but you can always be immature.
Well, yes, I like
So
that.
that's going to be on my
I can't wait to
tombstone.
tell my wife tonight.
That's going to be on my tombstone, which, by the way, is an epitaph. Just no, Clark. We had an epitaph thing. Oh, that's in next week's episode.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm now giving Clark knowledge about what an epitaph is.
Nice.
When he next week will tell us that he doesn't know what it is.
I'm really confused right now.
It's because we don't drop these in order.
That's cool.
because music of the month drops at the beginning of the month, and
No,
that's
I get it, man.
That's already been
I
recorded.
get it.
So there you go. I don't know. Why am I doing that? We're messing with people's brains.
Yeah.
Don't give away the secrets, Clark.
Yeah, don't give away
Don't give away the secrets.
Clark, you're gonna have to
Secret
edit
sauce.
all this part out too, man. I'm sorry.
We
You-
generally
it's
like-
funny. It's
we
funny that you
generally
think
like
Clark. It's funny that you think Clark's doing the editing. Don't worry, we'll still make Clark look good. It's all right. But you are doing a new venture.
I do have a new venture,
Okay.
and
So you went through the bartending, and now
went back to bartending,
consulting. And is this venture with to do bartending consulting?
this is more consulting.
Okay.
I'm working for a Indianapolis developer that has purchased a large area of land in a neighborhood that it's just. Honestly, it's dilapidated warehouses and old manufacturing and things like that.
Right.
But we have plans for 2024 where it's going to be condos, apartments, affordable housing, restaurants, the whole 9 yards.
And you said this is like an 80-acre slice.
An 80-acre slice on both sides of the Monon. So
Okay, so the Monon Trail, for people that don't know, used to be a railroad.
Yes.
And then the railroad was removed, and they have now put a bike path, walking path on there. That's
exactly what it is.
People are setting up businesses on either side of these things, all the way up and down.
Just because
like,
there's so
through
much
the middle
foot
of-
traffic,
yeah.
and yes, but
and
that's exactly what it
it's
is.
cool. And so they
My-
have that in the north side. It's actually pretty predominant. It's
Yes.
runs through Carmel and the north side of Indianapolis.
Carmel,
and
you
they're
get
now-
Broad Ripple, you get
and they're-
Westfield.
They're moving this now down towards the center more of the
This
city.
this will kind of connect downtown Indianapolis to the Broad Ripple area.
Okay.
So this will be another stop.
And Broad
on
Ripple
the-
is sort of, for anyone who's listening not from around here, that's sort of like the hip, cool bar area around Butler University.
Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah. So it's sort of like the college town of Indianapolis.
That's exactly what it is. So,
I'm-
and
yeah.
Broad Ripple's great. Our project is going to be, like I said, there's housing and everything going on. The part that I'm in charge of is called the Cradle.
The Cradle.
And the Cradle is going to be an outdoor restaurant and events and art space that will include. We're building shipping container restaurants. So
Okay.
we're trying to highlight some chefs this summer that will eventually move into these shipping containers. So
Okay.
we'll have like a nice up and coming culinary community there. We're putting,
And sort of this. So when you say a shipping container, this is going to be the building blocks of the establishment.
It's
They're gonna be
exactly
these
what it is.
Shipping
Like,
containers.
we,
It's going to be an outdoor venue.
Sure.
Right.
If you Google shipping container restaurants, you'll
Right.
see exactly like
Yeah.
some great
There's a
examples
cool one
of what
in
it is.
like Green Jeans or something like that in Albuquerque. We go to quite.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
kind of cool. Yeah.
But they'll put four of these things together and build a full sit-down restaurant
Right,
on the inside.
right.
So that's what we're doing.
Or they'll just put the kitchen in that with it opened up, and it's like it's a glorified food truck.
There'll
and
be a
you
little
sit
bit of that
outside.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna-
there'll be a
and
little
you
bit of
get
that too.
Really kind of cool and funky with that stuff.
You can
It's
just do
awesome.
so much,
Yeah.
so many different unique things with it.
And they're versatile that way.
They
It's
are
like,
versatile.
It's like grown-up Legos.
And you can literally pick them up, take them apart, and reconfigure it to a new restaurant,
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah, the Hi-Fi kind of did a cool little thing for their COVID stage out back.
Sure.
Yeah, the Hi-Fi is a
Local
venue, a local venue for bands.
I love
They
that
also have
spot.
a bar. Yeah,
it's
cool.
one of my it's small, but might be my favorite
Yeah.
indoor music venue in the city.
I've seen a lot of bands. Yeah, that's a cool area of town too. That Fountain Square. area.
Fountain Square,
Yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah, so
And we're putting in a music venue as well. We're gonna have an indoor music venue and an
Nice.
outdoor music venue.
that's cool.
There's indoor event space. We'll be able to host weddings, conventions, any of that kind of stuff.
And that's all in this area called the Cradle. That's part of this project.
It is. So,
Is this-
so
does
the
this have
product's called Monon 30. Is
Monon 30,
the name
okay.
of the company that is because it's at 30th and the Monon.
Okay. Yeah. So they're super clever.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Very
No,
original.
but the Cradle sounds good because it sounds like you're birthing really good ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
And
my gosh. God.
This summer we're hosting a series of pop-ups every weekend, starting this weekend. That will focus on local chefs. So I have 6 to 8 local chefs and food trucks out there. We'll have a beer garden. We're going to be focusing on a local ready-to-drink cocktail company.
So
called
this is all starting here at the end of June, going into July, and
Yes,
you'll be going
and
just
we're
for-
going to go as long as we can, as
Okay.
long as the weather's good.
Nice.
And even when the weather gets, like I said, I've got 25,000 square feet of indoor space, so we
Okay.
might move some stuff inside for the winter too.
Okay.
But-
And this is all while it's being developed. This
It
is
is.
not finished. This is several years in the making, but you're already starting to do some kind of this cool
Yeah,
venture,
we
right?
want to build a community. There's
Right.
nothing there right now, so we want to build the community. I'm using it as an incubator for up and coming chefs.
Okay.
So as we talk to these chefs that we're going to highlight all this summer, we're getting some incentive money back from the state of Indiana for building the project, and I'm going
Okay.
to use some of that money to take these great chefs that are up and coming and completely fund the restaurants when we get to the point that we can put the permanent shipping container restaurants
Okay.
in.
Nice.
So right now it's definitely more of a food truck feel. We're popping chefs up in a single shipping container or a
Right.
food truck and trying to help them develop their product, trying to help them develop their brand, and then from there,
and,
if it
and
works
develop
out,
a clientele as well.
exactly,
Obviously. Yeah.
And
so-
then if it works out from there, we're going to invite them to be part of the
Nice.
finished project.
So
in
it's sort of like a
2024.
like a test kitchen kind of thing where you're bringing these
That's
people
exactly
in
what
and
it
trying that
is.
out, and,
Yeah.
and then see how that works, and then they can refine their thing. And it sounds like you're now trying to do a little bit with those chefs, kind of what you did with bartenders.
That's exactly what we want to do.
That's all right.
We want to help develop the careers of these up and coming chefs. Indianapolis took a really big hit for COVID as far as some of our independent restaurants and
Okay.
things like that. There was a lot of really talented people that ended up displaced
Right.
that have started just doing pop-ups and doing
Food
small,
trucks
yeah,
and-
food
yeah.
trucks and things like that
Yeah.
that really deserve a shot to have more of a permanent
But
structure.
I like the idea. I like the idea that people didn't give up, right? And they turned around and they're like, all right, we have to pivot, and we're going to have to do something a little bit different, a little bit more interesting, and
I agree
and
100%.
sort of creative. And it still allows you. What ends it up is when you have a situation like that, it's going to force some creativity.
Sure.
Right, because now you got to like do less. You got to do more with less, and you're going to have to kind of raise your own flag. And in a way, one of the ways to do that is to come up with something new and something interesting, something
Well,
different. And I think that's going to create a lot of really cool things.
Sure.
And along that same theme, I think you really are going to birth some really good food. And entertainment down there. I think that's awesome.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I'm excited about our chef lineup, and I'm excited about the new people that are just kind of finding out what we're doing, that are reaching out to me for opportunities as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to go ahead and go on camera to say right now that this is going to be the coolest thing going on in Indianapolis this summer.
This summer?
Yeah.
Nice. And this is still 2022, because
2022.
these will probably be here for, people will be listening to this for years to come,
I
because this soon-to-be Legends is going to be legendary.
Time capsule.
Time capsule, this thing, yeah. So I just want to timestamp that so people
I
know.
hope we bury this thing, actually.
What? You hope you what?
I hope we take this episode
In the time capsule?
bury it, because
I
I've
thought
talked a
you
lot
meant
of trash.
I thought you meant like bury this episode, like we don't ever want to see it again.
No,
we put this time.
If we put it in the time capsule, then when it gets dug up in 50 years, they're going to be like, oh
Well,
my God, what were they
that's the
thinking
whole
back in
point of
2020?
this show is we're going to this whole thing is a time capsule.
love
We're
it.
going to look back years later and go, which one of these people really did become legends?
Or if you look at the cycle
Right.
of pop culture, like
Right.
every 20 years,
Yeah.
in 20 more years, this episode will be one of the most popular things in society.
Ever. Yeah, this whole show will be. I mean, let's be honest. They're going to look back and like, wow, I was there. Like, I remember
Ground
when Zach
level.
was there.
Yeah.
Ground level came in.
First
wait.
season.
That was when they were soon to be legends.
Sure.
Now they're, whew.
Then you'll have to have us back on the Now We're Legends podcast.
Now we're
in
Legends
20 years.
podcast.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're really self-congratulatory.
I do enough of that as it is. That's my life.
Why not, right? Because that's fun. It's fun for everybody.
It is.
I mean, because sitting around talking about how cool we are is kind of our favorite thing to do.
Right? Yeah, that's one of the biggest
pretty
problems
good.
with America today.
Is that we don't talk about how cool we are, or
No,
we do?
We talked way too
Oh,
much
we talk
about
about,
how
I
cool
got
we
you.
are.
I got you. So that's fine. I hang our American flag every now and then, so
Yeah.
we're good too. So that's pretty awesome. And
It's fun. It's for me, it's completely different than anything I've ever done.
Right.
Any consulting or any restaurant stuff I've done, I've walked in and there's 4 walls already built around
Right.
you. There's permits and
Right.
all that stuff already in place. And by this, like right now, I'm completely flying by the seat of my pants, trying to figure it out as I'm going along.
right, because
But-
literally they're like, we have this open area. Do something with it.
Exactly.
Make it cool.
That's exactly what it
Okay.
is. And the idea is like to take this concept and maybe open it in a couple other places in the Midwest. So this is
Okay.
a learning ground for me
Nice.
to kind of figure out what I'm doing. So as we hopefully expand, we'll be able to do this in,
Right.
in,
Okay.
other places.
So and then
that-
you'll have the cradle, right?
Sure.
And then the next one will be what? The nursery, and then the kindergarten or something.
I hope.
I don't know.
I hope. Yeah.
Bar mitzvah.
High school cafeteria.
Right. And then eventually it'll be the nursing home.
Yeah.
Right.
And
No,
then-
I don't know.
And then
That's
we'll end up with a coffin.
the coffin.
Yeah, the coffin.
Coffin. Okay. That's
Stages of life there.
oh man, boy, I think we got profound somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
Did that go
I
weird?
love it.
So so that's the big thing, and
That's my
and you're
my
still
big project
bartending,
right now. I am still bartending. You can find me at Anthony's Shop House in Carmel Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays right now.
Okay.
I'm hoping. I figured this thing with the Cradle will probably slow down when the weather changes.
Okay.
So I will probably go back full time to Anthony's for the holidays.
Yeah.
And then next year, as we really progress on the actual development,
Yeah.
I'll probably just focus
So
on that completely.
as part of that deal, are you hoping to open your own place down there too? Like have your own little slinging cocktails? And
I totally
dreams?
could.
Or what?
And I've got 10 concepts in my head ready to go right now, like
yeah.
at any time, just because
Yeah.
anywhere I go or anything that I see, I'm always kind of like putting stuff
Yeah.
together.
I do the same thing with screenplays.
Yeah.
They're all in my head. I don't know, at
Yeah.
some point I got to write them out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do with menus and
Takes a little
restaurant
while. I think-
concepts.
yeah.
That being said, I don't know if I want to work that hard anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 46 now. It was different when I was 30.
Yeah,
like bring on 70 hours a week.
I'm
Let's
gonna
go.
kick fire. Yeah.
Now, like I
Like,
would
you got
rather
family,
I
you
would
got
rather
kids.
consult 40 hours
40
a
hours,
week, and
gotcha.
so we'll see how it plays out. That being said, like my wife is the oldest of 8, and everybody in her family is culinary talented in the industry somehow.
Is culinary talented?
Culinarily
Okay,
talented.
I got you.
That means everybody in her family.
No. I know what that means.
Cooks well.
Thanks, Clark. Thanks.
Well, like we've got professional
I
butchers.
just thought he
we've
said everybody in this is calling her Mary. I'm like, what?
got, yeah, I'm not good with words sometimes.
The words were right.
But we've got
Articulation.
professional bakers. We've got professional bookers.
Bookers and bakers.
Bakers, butchers.
You have candlestick makers?
We don't have candlestick
sorry,
makers. But I'll take a class at the Art Center and we can make that happen. But I do have a built-in infrastructure of trusted people in my family.
That's awesome.
If I wanted to open a place, I could probably make it happen and step back and actually be an owner.
Make
and
them
not
do
be
all the work.
Not be so hands-on.
You just be the legend behind it.
Sure, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, or soon to be legend.
All right. No, that's
soon to
now.
be legendary
Soon
concept.
will be the legend.
Sure.
All right, I got one question
Okay,
before
good.
we leave.
Has it been
you're
an hour?
You're a big vinyl guy?
Yes.
What's your favorite vinyl?
So vinyl records, folks.
Yes, I have thousands. What's my favorite record?
Yeah.
Like that I own?
In your collection,
In my collection? Man, I've got a lot. And my collection's one of those collections where you can flip through and you're like, what the hell? Like Peter, Paul, and Mary next to Wu-Tang Clan, next to some weird Scandinavian dark metal. Like it's all across the board.
Scandinavian speed metal.
Yeah, or
right.
like, and that could be next to an old school like 50s honky tonk record. Right. So that being said, with the variety that I have, the record that I'm most proud of and the one that was hardest for me to get was a original pressing of Einama by Tool, which came out in the 90s.
Wow.
And it's just like
Tool's
never replaced, or they've never reprinted that album, and it's super hard to get, and they're $1,000 to buy now just because they're super rare. And I was able to get my hands on one a few years ago, and it's probably my crown jewel.
Yeah,
but
nice.
Like I said, I'm all across the board.
So you're a music fan then too,
I
right?
am.
Yeah.
I am.
And an eclectic musical taste as well.
It's all over the board.
So the ball and biscuit thing from before was also because you're a fan of that. And
it is.
We are also fans of music on this show, which is why we highlight musicians once a month.
Clark and I talk tunes every time he's sitting in front of me in front of the bar. So
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So you should tune into our show and
for sure.
pick up all the musicians that we got.
I love it. I'm always looking for new, especially local stuff. Like
we got some good ones.
Indianapolis
really
is kind of starting to come back musically, like bigger than I've seen it in a long time.
And Clark really, that was part of when we put this together. One of the things he really wanted to emphasize as well, right?
Sure.
So we're doing that. So
that's awesome.
You can be a fan as well.
That
you too
awesome.
can be a fan by clicking the subscribe and the like button. I'm just
ring that bell. Ding.
Beat that dead horse.
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, we got to do it.
That's like the biggest YouTube trope these days. Like,
exactly.
ring that bell.
Yeah, hit the old subscribe button.
I like it.
That's great. Well, this was kind of fun. Did we, Clark? We doing good?
I think we did good. We're good on time.
So that's
what
good.
What is this thing coming out on?
No,
it's on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be Wednesday the 29th.
Cool. This episode will be Wednesday the 29th? Cool.
Yeah, that's the plan at this point. The June 29th.
Yeah, that works
that's
perfect.
That's a theory I'm on.
Like
that's a schedule I'm on.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right. Well, Zach, it was really great to meet you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was
Thank
awesome.
You. Thanks for having me on.
Good luck.
I hope
with
I didn't get too rambly or
that's
off topic.
That's the whole point because we had no plan going in, right?
My ADD gets a little weird sometimes.
That's okay, and I feed that fire, so we're good with that.
I appreciate it.
And we really hope that Cradle thing sounds really awesome. I hope that thing goes well.
I'm really looking forward to it. I will say this.
Yes.
Give me a couple of weekends to really get it pumping because I don't know. Like I'm trying to get my systems in place and everything else, but I would assume by mid-July this is going to be one of the coolest destination spots in Indianapolis.
Yeah, so that's awesome. As people find this, find our broadcast, they'll be able to find you out there as well.
Yeah,
so
and Monon 30 on Monon 30 on Instagram and Facebook, and then like I said, Zach Tales for me if anybody wants to reach out. And if you have spirits questions or need a recommendation on a bottle of bourbon, you can hit me up at Zach Tales too. I'm
Zach Tales
always open to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Good. Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Sweet.
And we'll definitely at you when we throw this up there and do all those sorts.
I appreciate you guys. This is fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
All right, Clark. Thanks for bringing them in. That's kind of a cool deal.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, and everybody else, we'll see you guys next week.
Adios.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
3, 2, 1. We're clear.
He has to say 3, 2, 1 and clear
Every time.
No, you're supposed to be quiet for 3 seconds.
Aren't you supposed to be able to go like?
Yeah. I just do it whatever way I feel like it.